Welcome to the Work-Life Balance Podcast. I am Kara.
And I am Maggie.
Together, we're a power real estate team with the Bajetti Partners in Nashville.
We believe that the hustle culture of today's driven entrepreneur who lives and works in Middle Tennessee requires balance.
Hi guys, welcome back to Work-Life Balance with Kara and Maggie.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. We've got an amazing guest today with us, James Maslow. He is a, producer, actor, entrepreneur,
Sing on occasion, do some real estate here and there. Yeah.
A little bit of everything. So we're super excited to have you here and have a good conversation about where he came from, how he got there, and what he's doing now. So
absolutely.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yes. Such a cute little office and area. This is
Thank
Berry
you.
Hill. It's like south of Franklin, right?
Berry
Farms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So Franklin.
Yep. This development came about 5-10 years ago, so not too long, and it's just been growing, and we're getting even more. We're getting it in and out right here too. So
Well, you know you've made it when.
I know, right? Okay, tell us a little bit about you. Obviously, most people probably know you from Big Time Rush, so you can talk about that, but talk about your background and just how you got to where you are.
Wow. I'll do my best to make this
loaded.
as succinct as possible. Of course, Big Time Rush is a huge part of my story. We brought it back, I guess, almost 4 years ago. We started the conversation. We've been touring the last 3 years, and it's been just an absolute blessing.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same four of us. We have an incredible team around us, and most importantly, when we brought it back, had no idea, like, hey, does anybody care? Is anybody going to show up? And it's objectively bigger and more exciting this time around than even when we first launched it. Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, we've dreamt of venues like the Garden and the Forum in LA and just never played them back in the day. And we've already sold both those places out on 2 separate tours. We are going to Europe, again, a market that we, believe it or not, never even toured in. We went there. We actually did like 3 trips. I remember this is absurd. Right when we started going around the world, and Europe was a big market. We did a bunch of press trips, thinking, oh, we're going to play big tours there one day, and then never did. You know, and I think it's just because we didn't own it at the time. It was Sony Columbia and Nickelodeon, Viacom, and they just went, well, they're filming a TV show. It takes a lot of time. The United States is easier. South America's closer. We just kind of kept doing those markets, which is a blessing. But I'm so proud to say that we put a tour on sale in Europe, and it just blew out of the water. So we expanded it, added more dates, added large venues. That as well blew out. We're going to pause. We're going to hit what we have in June. But so I'm going to tease already the future is how we like to operate. Like, guys are so excited over there. We definitely plan on coming back and going bigger. And then, God willing, we're going to do this with other markets around the world as well. Maybe even later this year. So,
oh my God.
Man, yeah, that's.
So why do you think it was big? You said it's bigger and better this time. Why do you think that is? Do you think just the growth of social media and like that has anything to do with it? Or why do you think it's bigger this time?
I mean, social media certainly doesn't hurt in terms of exposure.
Right.
You know, it's funny enough, like our socials, if we had started a few years later, you know, when Instagram was more prevalent and then TikTok came about years after that, like if we were in the midst of that, we'd probably have 10x what we have on numbers, still have millions of followers, but not like 30 million followers. Yeah. However, it doesn't really matter because everyone else still has their socials and everyone still posts and reposts. And we understand that is just a huge part of how the word gets out when we're on tour. And our shows is part of the reason we put so much into production and we value the look of our show, the feel of our show, the size of it so much. So grateful for that. But I think that it's twofold. I think it's that we are more excited. Okay. When we started, of course, it was like we are so psyched, but we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know necessarily how to deal with it. And frankly, we didn't understand how big it was for years because we were just on set or on tour. And until we saw crowds, or on press, right? Until we saw crowds, it was hard to kind of gauge that. Now we've done this for going on 2 decades and have an understanding of how amazing it is, how global it is. And I think that we truly, as the band, just have so much more appreciation for it. And I think that's reciprocated with the fans, where it was cool before and it was some of the best times of their lives, our lives too. And I think what's happened in the world and globally, and especially post-COVID, is this nostalgia of, man, it was simpler then.
That's true.
I was younger, less responsibility. There wasn't pandemics around the world that we knew that were affecting us. And so I think that's part of it as well. So
Gives like a greater appreciation for it.
I think we all do, the fans and us. It's just like, man, this is just, the band has always been a community of people who are like-minded, who are positive, who are happy. Like our music is positive, the fans are, and it's beautiful, man. It makes me happy. It encourages me, and I know it does the same for the fans. So I think it's kind of all those meshed together.
Well, and after 2 decades being able to stay on the same page and you all grow together, that's also a huge accomplishment because
Yeah.
change. Families start, kids
Of course.
come, marriages happen.
Yeah.
And then you're like, how do I make time for all this touring?
And all that's happened. We got 2 band members that are married with kids now, and
Yeah.
It's great to see them grow too. I bet you all love that, especially doing that type of thing. You probably get so close to one another.
for sure. I mean, we're uncles,
Yeah.
Uncle James all the time. Carlos is one of his kids, his boy Ocean, will be like, James, and he'll do the old face, like my character did from Big Time Rush. And it's like, not everybody gets a response, but he gets the face every time.
I love it. I love it. But how old were you whenever you were doing that? And like, I know that's probably such a big shift of doing something like that and then having to pivot to other ventures, because I know you've done a ton of other stuff too. So what was that transition like?
I started doing BTR when I was 17.
Okay.
And shortly after, though, got into investing. My first manager was huge in real estate.
Okay.
And he was a huge advocate for, like, don't spend your money on anything. You don't get a nice car. You don't get a nice watch until you buy your first house. And that's kind of the order in which I would do it. I was like, house first, then car, then watch. Did that a few times over, and now I'm just, like, less precious about the car or the watch. I just want more houses.
Yeah.
And just so grateful for that inspiration and motivation from him. He just instilled a lot of discipline in me. And I didn't fully understand the value of real estate specifically, but investing in general until years later to see the compound effect of it. So I really, ego-wise, was ambitious and wanted to buy my first house at 21, went into escrow, and it just wasn't the right property. So technically, by the time I pulled out and found the one I did buy, I was 22. Still pretty good. And I've been able to see the long-term compound effects of real estate growing, of what renovations can do to the value of a property, of doing long-term rentals and short-term rentals, and learning how to tax defer and 1031 exchange and continue to build wealth that way.
Yeah.
Coupled with traditional investments and market investments, and just a lot of things that not only kept me afloat in between touring and in being on set, but really allowed me to do a bunch of independent roles, to do roles that I wanted to do that were against type, to start building the career that I want because I had the financial freedom to make those choices. And I'm in a similar position now as I'm producing, and I've got a slate of projects that I'm creating. Not everybody is jumping at me going, oh, of course, we know you as a producer. We get it. They don't yet, right? Yeah. A lot of eye rolling going on. It's almost like going back to the beginning when I was an actor, back to the beginning when I was a singer. You're not going to make it until you make it, and then everybody believes in you. And that's kind of happening again. But again, because of my portfolio, because of investing, and because of the band now as well, all of it's part of it, I'm in a position where I truly get to and try to make the right decisions and the best decisions, and not just the fastest decisions for money.
Well, it takes pressure. It takes the pressure right off you a little bit, and that you have that income stream, which is so important. And that is actually, when we were talking about our conversation with you, everybody, when they, we have had a lot of guests come in here on all levels of life, and everybody tends to say investing in real estate. I mean, that's my thing. That's what I love. But it's what was the mentor like that created that for you? And it sounds like it was your financial planner or advisor.
It was my first manager. Yeah.
But that's like wonderful, because now you're long term. This isn't going to be you're not going to be touring when you're 7 years old, right?
70. I mean, some of the guys still are. If I'm doing it then, though, it is going to be much comfier and few and far between. Let me tell you, a couple of stadiums a year, maybe. I don't know.
But you created this whole thing for that, so you don't have to. It just, like I said, it takes the pressure off because you have income coming in.
Yeah.
You don't have to hustle so damn hard anymore.
Yeah.
Sure. And it's something that I really encourage with young actors, young entrepreneurs, but especially in the arts, diversify. And it's not saying, well, have a backup plan because you're not going to make it. It's like, no, you're going to make it, but to allow yourself the opportunity, the freedom to make the best choices, to have the best chance of making it, set yourself up for success, which is, have other income streams. It doesn't mean trade that job for another job. No, it means work 2 jobs, work twice as hard, and then start putting that away. And obviously, real estate is one of the greatest growers of wealth we know out there.
Well, it lets you get your time back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It saves your time so you can do all the other things.
So where are you investing right now? Are you investing all over the country, or what do you like to do? Multi, single, apartments, commercial?
I've always been open to everything. I haven't done commercial yet.
Okay.
I looked at buying a commercial property in Miami actually recently, and
what type of commercial?
It was a strip mall.
Okay.
And it had a couple of like 15-year leases on it. I think one of them was a Starbucks. One of them was like another dental company. I was like, okay, so it had basically guaranteed income for 2 out of 4 slots that pretty much covered what my investment would be on the mortgage side, and then the other 2 would have been profit. But to me, it's just not as sexy, not as fun. I was like, yeah, I get it, but I'm also at a place in my life where like, yeah, I do have time, and I want to invest into things that are interesting, that I can add some sort of. And that's another thing about these places. Like, unless I were to tear it down and start over, which is another huge, there's no really value add there besides the income, the rental income, and then the long-term equity appreciation, right? And I'm just like, for that, I could also just put it in an index fund and watch the numbers grow. Yeah. So I've always been much more interested in residential. And residential was just, I can look at a property and go like, man, that's beautiful, or what a great location, and how can I add value? Start imagining the renovation I can do, the addition, even just the coat of paint and how I could adjust it, right? And that's why I've always done that. I initially started buying to live in, so I'd really fix it up for how I wanted it, and then rent out, mostly long-term, and then eventually flip or 1031 exchange is kind of how I've done it thus far. And instead of jumping into multi, what I kind of want to do next is start getting into more short-term, short-term, I swear I can speak well, which is just another business to learn. I have friends that do it at a very high level. And the way I look at doing that is like, again, 1 or 2 rental properties, juice probably isn't worth the squeeze for me. Yeah. But going in and finding like a community, finding a neighborhood, now adding value, if I'm doing 5 or 10 or 20, and I'm actually building a little fund to do this. Now, everyone that I renovate adds value to the next one, right?
Sure.
So there's a way in which I can kind of guarantee the increase in equity immediately. And in order to do that, then of course you need the rental company. And at that scale, then I'll just build the rental company. Right. I'll build the management company. I'll build the cleaning company. So they get decided to me, it's like, okay, one company is going to justify building 3 or 4 underneath to sustain it. And that's where I'm at, besides doing the traditional residentials, which I got a house in Venice that I've got tenants leaving in 4 days. Oh. And we're about to start a reno on it. Okay. That I plan on doing a 1031 and buying a dream home in Nashville for me. That's the goal. And then have a place in Coral Gables that we are so close to getting the permits ready. I mean, we just got plumbing and electrical approved today. We're still waiting on zoning, and just like literally after 6 weeks, got back the same comments again. So like super fun.
What are you trying to rezone? What are you rezoning? Is it a single family? Are you rezoning it to multi?
We're not rezoning shit.
Oh, okay.
That's the frustration.
That's the fun part about it.
Gotcha.
We're adding an addition.
Yes.
We're taking a primary bedroom and bringing out 7 more feet, and it's like.
So you're not doing like a dadu or anything crazy. You're just extending a bedroom.
You're just trying to add some square
footage. When you look at it, right, it doesn't sound crazy. Yeah. However,
Miami.
Boy, and that's just something also to learn. It's like when you go into a renovation, food for thought, anybody out there that's about to do your first or second renovation, if you can avoid adding square footage and just do interior, you probably don't even need permits. Never said that. Correct. Or it's going to be a lot easier, right? But adding square footage, as great as that sounds, because that's where you get your value, you can justify the spend because you know you're getting back, right? There's a lot of advantages. Every GC, every person, that's easy. No, it's not. Yeah. No, it is not, because it's not up to them. It's up to the city.
Sure it is.
100%.
And in neighborhoods, like Coral Gables is like Beverly Hills of Miami, right? There's just departments that are retirees that have nothing better to do than
turn you in.
Well, than to give you their opinion. It's really what it is. It doesn't even come. Your engineering can be perfect, and they can go, yeah, I don't like that. Yeah. Even though the job on the engineering side is to just make the mathematical correction. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you go to the architectural board, it's like, it just becomes.
That's all that back and forth, and you go to
them
and they say the same thing back.
Yeah. Well, but we do that out here a lot too, because especially out in the Franklin countryside. Okay. You're talking more Nashville, where you're looking. Sorry to kick you back. We're on septics and stuff out here. Okay. So try adding square footage to a septic that's already you're
I'm on septic in the Coral Gables.
Yeah, so you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's air conditioned space. That's a nightmare unless you're pulling the thing and doing all new leach lines and all.
You just ran into that with the flip, didn't you?
100%.
To that point, sometimes it would be easier to tear it down and start from the beginning.
Start over.
Than to try and do a renovation down to the studs, because then you're limited to all the impermeable surfaces, all the just you know, sometimes in the future, if I'm going to go this detailed again, it might be, hey, I'm going to buy land or I'm going to buy something to tear it down. And then it's a 2-year process, but you know it's a 2-year process. Sure. Or let's say, you know, maybe it's faster. This was supposed to be a 5-month process, and now 9-10 months later, we haven't even started.
Oh, goodness.
I'm talking about soup to nuts build, but, you know, again.
This is what, I think you had a great point, and people need to listen to that, is they just think, oh, I'm just going to renovate a house.
Yeah, no.
Oh, I just see, I'm going to add some value and make $100,000 or whatever case might be. It's not that easy. You've got to know what the hell you're doing, because it's like, especially when you open that can of worms.
Well, and sometimes look
bigger and bigger.
The tough part is too, and I don't mean to call out anybody on my team. My team's very good, but do they have the close relationships with the city that they said they had? Clearly no.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. But I had 7 different, you know, companies come in to do the build for this that all said the same thing, and you got to go with one. Sure. You got to risk that. Now, do I think they're going to do a good build? I do. Do they have internal design that's fantastic? Yes. Everything's a risk, but what you have to be prepared for is your carrying cost. And that's something that they're not factoring in for you.
Right. Yeah.
So I've been paying a mortgage and electrical and gardening and all the things that go into insurance, wind insurance in Miami with hurricanes. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
For 9 months now. And that's not factored in. You know, that's, you know, we're talking about 6 figures additional onto this build now.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you like the residential side because I mean, obviously you're an artist and other things that you do. So that really sparks your creativity side when you can go in and completely reimagine a space.
Absolutely.
And it also seems like you've learned a ton about just the whole process. So how long have you actually been doing investing, whether it's been in Miami or just wherever?
Wow, I guess 12 years now. Okay. You know, going on 13. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
And
it's a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn. The nice part is the more you do it, like the more you do anything, the easier it is to make the fast decisions. Because what I've committed to on the investor side now is I will never be the reason things are held up, which means when you get design options, I don't have the luxury of taking 2 weeks to be like, let me go and look at swatches. No, you have to make decisions. And now I'm literally doing 2 at a time. Yeah. Mind you, this is not my full-time job. This is not even like of the 5 or 6 verticals I run, this is like 4. You know, this is, I mean, it is singing, producing, acting, social, digital, you know, and speaking, then real estate. I'm going to call it 5.
Yeah. Wow.
And doesn't mean it's not a priority important. And there's millions of dollars on the line to do this. Sure. But the point is, like even this morning, I'm getting 2 different designers in 2 different states. I have California, I have Florida, sending me things and options. And I really just have to be like, that one over this one over that one. Okay. And go. And I kind of break it down to the 51% rule, which is how I try and operate most of my decision making in life.
What is that?
There are 2 types of decisions in life. Call it type 1 and type 2. The vast majority of which are going to be type 1, which is not life altering, life changing. So for a type 1 decision, your vast majority of decisions, if you're 51% confident that's the right one, make it and go. Move on. If you made the wrong decision, then you adjust, you make another one, you go. It's not worth your time, and overthinking it, you're going to slow yourself down. And now I'm in an executive producing position for running my company in a lot of different ways with a lot of different people. If I can't make quick decisions and move on and be okay with it, I'll never get this stuff done. Right. And type 2 is like who you're going to marry. You know, some major potentially life-changing things you should put more thought into. But the vast majority of our decisions day to day are type 1, and most people treat them like type 2.
It's true.
I love that. I've actually never heard that before. I mean, I've heard it in different ways, but 51%. Because you're right. Like, who cares if it's going to be the cream color or the white wall? Like,
what's it going to change?
Is that really going to
and by the way, you know, not that this is a fun thing to do. You're not going to get everything perfect anyways. Yeah. So you're going to get there, and some things you're going to need to change. And maybe you realize it, fucked up on that one. Pardon me, do you swear on your thing?
Yes, we totally do.
We should have asked. You know, screwed up on that one. Okay, guys, we have to go in and change it back. Okay, cost me half a day. Cost me a couple $1,000. Yeah. But we got there. Yeah. And I think it's the same way that I work in songwriting, which is also why like I'm not your traditional artist, and also why I love Nashville, because people do think this way around here. When it comes to writing a song, let's have a finished product by the end of the day. And let's not take 12 hours to do it, because that's absurd. We're all talented. We all do this for a living. Come in prepared. Come up with ideas. Let's go. Doesn't mean rush the process, but what it does mean is let's have a tangible thing to listen back to and then make adjustments from there. Which is the same thing with like, you know, let's have a house built. Let's have a living room designed and let's go. And if I need to alter some things after the fact, as long as they're not major mistakes, hopefully, big deal. Versus, in LA and other markets, man, some people just want to get in,
Stretch it out.
get in and vibe. And, there's nothing wrong with that as an artist. That's your creative process. I'm a finisher. It is not my creative process. So like the idea of let's vibe on a song for 12 fucking hours and be high and drunk the whole time and then not have a song at the end of the day. That's got to be 80% of writing
I could imagine.
in LA and other places. And dude, once in a while you get a hit out of it. I'm sure. I literally don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Well, get in there, execute, finish the job. What are you, an Aries, Leo?
Cancer, I don't know what that means, but
you are woo!
And we're the same way. It's things have to happen on a strict deadline. Get it done. Don't, like you're saying, don't spend 12 hours just dicking around doing whatever. Get it done and move forward. And you said, if you need to make changes, you can pivot later.
Well, we all met at a workshop, right? Mm-hmm. So continue to ask questions to learn, to have mentors, try and learn from people who have done it before us, bigger than us. And I will say that the vast majority, if not every single mentor or multi-millionaire or billionaire that I have consulted with, that I get, to ask questions to, just say you live and you die by your calendar.
Yeah.
You make deadlines and you hit them, or if you don't, it's for a reason, you address it. It's really, when you break it down like that, it's success is quantifiable. Not that it's that easy. Doesn't mean you're always going to get there. But if you don't even have a measurement, how the hell can you have an expectation for success? Sure. And, a lot of artists, again, don't think this way because they don't want to be beholden to the timeline to do things. As much as I want to understand it, I disagree with it, because an album, a song, a tour, a movie, if you don't have boundaries, guidelines, budgets, timelines, it'll just never fucking get done.
Yeah, that's true.
You're just going to hope that it works one day. What an absurd game plan.
Yeah.
So
I love that. No, we're all about the action. You can probably see it in our office. We have vision boards everywhere. We have goals and we know what we need to do to get there. We're going to work on a daily basis to get there rather than just pitter patter in.
For sure.
And I think, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, just again, it's maybe you don't hit the exact goal, but you got 40%. Then what you got to do is go, hey, measure backwards. Hell yeah, we're 40% closer than we were. Yeah. And then reassess it. That's totally valid too.
Yeah. She says this all the time. Shoot for the stars, land on the moon.
Well, and I think time blocking is something that a lot of people that have come in here have spoke about that are very successful. And that's something that I got a calendar, but I'm old school. I like my Google Calendar, but I like to write it down too. But I make sure that shit's done by the end of the day. Yep. It is checked off and completed.
And doesn't it alleviate stress too?
Yeah, because I'm not waking up at 3:00 in the morning going,
oh, I forgot to do this. I got an email.
Yeah.
To-do lists.
We have too much going on. Yeah, I mean, I can't do that.
Okay, so I want to kind of pivot just a little bit. And whenever we met at a workshop networking event for Sean Kaplan, and you had a great speech there, and it was all about realtors providing value.
Yep.
And it really hit home, not only for me, but for both of us, because we always talk about providing value, and it's really what we talk about 90% of the time on our podcast, whatever profession people are in, communication, whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought it was great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that and your examples that you used then of other realtors providing value and what that has shown in your life and your investing too.
Oh yeah.
And which one you chose?
Yeah.
Out of those three.
We were curious about that.
Yeah. I'll let you know. Well, without digging into the 15-minute talk I was giving out there, it was about just my experience. I've been doing this for a minute now, and it's very easy the first time you buy a house to understand how a realtor is going to provide value because you have no idea what you're doing. Right? And a realtor is going to hold your hand and walk you through all that, as they should.
Right.
Then as you get more competent and experienced, you don't ask the same questions, and arguably you don't need as much help, but there's still a lot of value in a good realtor, right? And so I guess I came across a little bit rough around the edges perhaps in that talk, because that's how I like to talk. I like to grab people's attention, be like, this is a bold statement. Why did I get here? And if you don't want to listen to me after that, that's totally fine. Most people get interested enough. They're like, oh, okay, I get his perspective and what he's coming from. What I mean by that is talking about all the other options you have that aren't realtors. And it's tough to tell a room of realtors that. The purpose of that, though, is to recognize that things are changing. I see it all the time. I'm seeing it in my industry. Yeah. I'm seeing it in studios that had huge plans to do. Tyler Perry just pulled $800 million from building these sound stages, expanding his sound stages in Atlanta.
Wow.
The second that he saw, I think it's called Sorry, if I'm saying it wrong, you know what I'm talking about, the text to video AI. If you haven't seen it, I'll show it to you afterwards. It is mind blowing.
Wow.
You text him, and it's literally okay, a guy on the moon having a conversation with a cat, and all of a sudden you see a cinematic, looks like a fucking $100 million movie.
No way.
So he went, how can I justify a $1 billion spend when AI is going to replace this? That sucks. He's taking dude, the amount of money from construction workers to editors to DPs to grips to like that this might replace. I'm not advocating for it, but it's the reality of my industry that's going to completely shift. And in realty, it's a similar thing, especially younger people that are used to going online, and all of a sudden they're going to see 10 options for, we'll, sell you a house, no commission, $5,000 or $2,000 flat fee. Yep. They exist. That is real competition to what a realtor does.
Mm-hmm. We run into it.
Sure. Now, is that the best way to buy a house? Probably not if you don't know what you're doing. And even if you do, a realtor is there to help save you a lot of headache, to help navigate so much of the process. But I think it's just, be aware of that, right? And a couple of the examples were my Coral Gables house I'm renovating right now. If I didn't have a realtor, maybe I could have set up the appointment in time, but I didn't even think of it. And what I mean by that is I found this property on Zillow. I just like to look on Zillow. Yeah, I'm on MLS. Yeah, they're looking for me, but they got other things to do and other clients. Sure. And in my free time, I love real estate. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep looking. Nobody's going to want the house as much as you do, right? Remember that. Even a great realtor, like you can't expect them to do everything. So I sent him over this and said, what's wrong with the property? Because it was like legit like $1 million less than the ones next to it. And I could have sworn I saw it for about $500,000 more a week before, which wasn't wrong, or maybe it was a few weeks before. Turns out that there was a divorce going on. They had lowered it by about $500,000. It went into escrow twice, kept lowering each time, fell out for monetary reasons, and the loan they couldn't get. The other one fell out for personal reasons, and they needed to sell because of the timeline of the divorce, which is unfortunate. But had he not, my realtor, not made the appointment when I sent it to him for the next day, I probably would have thought there's something wrong with it. Sure. I didn't even think of taking the initiative to do that. There's no way I would have shown up. There's no way I would have seen it that day, realized there's nothing wrong with it, made the offer, got the house. Yeah. And be in this position now where I'm going to make a lot of money on this because of the entry point that I got it, even with the carrying costs for an extra year, because of what I bought it at, which is another key. Getting in at the right price is the key to all of this. Sure. And man, I'm just so grateful for that, and just would never even question the percentage of his commission. In fact, I was psyched. Even though I understand buying and selling is, to me, it's kind of the same thing. He's getting that because of the value of what he did. Versus, you go to list a house and you get a realtor that kind of doesn't take great photos. And I had a realtor that didn't even put mine on Zillow, just put on the MLS, and just like absurd. That's the crazy laziness of this. And then you're expecting hundreds of thousands of dollars for barely doing work. Yeah. That frustrates me. But man, I mean, a good realtor goes above and beyond. I've got my guy in California right now that's a realtor, but he understands a lot of clients are going to want to do renovations. So what does he do is I got the guys. I got the team. I'm not charging you extra for this. I want you to use them. They're great. They did my house. And he's working with me literally on everything from design to understanding the market to houses he's flipped in the same market. To just so on it. So dude, I am psyched. So just no question about when a realtor is doing their job well, it's above and beyond and will be so much more than what a flat fee service is going to do for you.
You get what you pay for with those flat fees. That's for sure. For sure, correct. But if you just want to sell a house, you're not worried about it, you want basic, yeah, maybe there's a world in which you save some money doing it. Yeah. But I've always felt that it's short-term money. And the short-term cheaper thing is back to what you said. You do get what you pay for in the long run. It's good to have options, but when you do find a good realtor, they're invaluable. And by the way, I went with my hairdresser. I knew it. Hey. I could have put money on that.
Yeah.
I think so. For this boutique, this is the brokerage that we created a year ago. But I've been in the business for 20 years, right? So the long-term game of being a valuable realtor is what I strive on. Yeah. So we talk about it all the time. Why do people want to choose going and working for Benchmark or Parks or whatever, something different than small? And I think it all comes down to what you want out of the services I can provide, which is this. You have us 100%. We're not putting on auto notify, so you can just, those are searching, and that's fun. You can do that all day long. But that's not going out and door knocking and making deals for people that need to have a house on this specific street or whatever the case may be. And it makes it more fun for us. I don't want to just... I don't find it that exciting to just, oh my, you tell me when you find a house, I'll write the contract.
Right.
I'm not doing shit for you in that sense. So you're right. Like that is when.
I mean, because those contracts are pretty boilerplate. Like, you're adjusting a few lines. Let's be real.
Correct.
They literally have like blocks where you fill stuff
that
in.
that doesn't bring any value to the table.
For sure.
So why are you going to call me again in 2 years when you want to sell it or you want to buy an investment property? So I think you nailed it that day when you talked about how value is. In fact, we did a whole podcast after that on value. And I think it's true because realtors aren't always going to be around. They're not. I mean, if they don't stay ahead of it, AI can do it. And we've been going to a lot of these seminars on AI and why they could take our job. And if you stay ahead of it, they won't replace us. They will be able to replace a lot of it, but
I think real estate also, like we call it a personal thing. Like this is not just about selling houses. It's about making personal connections and knowing people.
100%.
And you probably went with your hairdresser because he was well connected. And so like the same thing as your
And it's a
California
personality
realtor.
thing too.
yeah.
He's just so excited about it. He's been doing it for 4 years, but not a super long time.
Yeah.
Especially for the level of house we're looking at and the level of house he's already selling.
Yeah.
But he just genuinely loves it. And he's like, no worries, man. We're going to find you the perfect house, whatever it is. I mean, I threw out this house that I was like, look, my timeline. I can't possibly buy something for minimum 3 months because of the 1031. And it could be longer than that. And so I see a place. I'm like, man, if we were ready, this would be a good place. And he said, why don't you just meet the builder? And I was like, I don't want to waste anybody's time. It feels premature. He's like, well, no, I talked to the builder. He gets a timeline. He'd still like to meet you. And I'm like, cool. Boom. We did a walkthrough at the house with the guy who built it. All the questions that I always think about, especially with new construction, when I walk through, like, what's the insulation like? I get worried. I feel like, I'm in a rental right now. Great house, modern house, new house. But, I'm on a call 4,000 square feet away, and Caitlin can hear me.
Yeah.
And that's a cheap build. It really is. And it's like, you may not notice it until you buy something, and then all of a sudden you're trying to work out of the house. And anyways, it was cool to walk through with this builder and just like literally talk down to what he sprayed in insulation, what he sprayed for soundproofing. He's proud of it. Mm-hmm. And so whether I can get this house from him or not, in 3 months when I'm ready to go, he's going to be one of my first calls. If it's not available, like, what else do you got? How do we work together?
It's wonderful.
Even in terms of having a relationship with the city, which if you're going to do any expansion, any building, any renovations, which even on this house, I want to build a casita. I want to build an extra garage. I want to put a pool in, certain things. And he has built those relationships. So it's like, no brainer, I'm going to use them.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if it's like this in California. I know she's from California too, and you obviously have a lot of experience there. But Nashville is really just a big, small town. I don't care.
Little big town.
Yes, I swear it's so true. I mean, I've lived in Nashville pretty much my whole life, and I mean, my roots run really deep here, and I know how true that is. Yeah. You got to know somebody who knows somebody, and that's how you make stuff happen here. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just
I think that's everywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, it probably is, but I totally know what you're saying here.
Yeah.
I ran into
you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was on my call with my team for Coral Gables this morning, and they're like, yeah, we're going to go and try and set up an in-person. I'm like, how have you not done that already?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not being mean. I'll fly down there and knock on the place myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't even kidding. I'm like, offer them fucking tickets.
Yeah.
Get like somebody's got a kid somewhere. Like I'm like, I don't care. Like, use what we got. Let's get this done. Right. It's like trying to be positive about it, but it is 100%. I don't know an industry that's not relationship based except for like trading. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you're in numbers, although I guess for inside trading, it's still relationship.
Yeah, that's it. There you go.
But you're right. Time is money, and so it's like get it done. And at the end of the day, it's your money. So sometimes they don't have that same drive.
Yeah. They can't possibly. They don't have the same risk on the line.
They don't have it exactly. So it's hard to like push. I mean,
I have learned that I got to be careful how often I remind them of. Well, by them, I mean, so my sister's actually my architect on this project.
Oh, cool. And that's great.
She's really good. She's really good at her job.
I'm working with a sibling right now.
But she has made it very clear she doesn't appreciate it when I remind her who's footing the bill and how long it's taking.
Yeah.
But
truth is truth.
Truth is truth,
That's true. Working with family's not easy, but you can get past it.
Well, let's circle back to this. Yes. So obviously work-life balance.
Yep.
It sounds like you have a girlfriend. I don't think you're married, right?
No, about 5 years in, so.
Okay. So
almost 5, not
you're
quite.
You still have to balance because there's another part to you.
Yeah.
So how does that look with all these, let's see, irons in the fire, and
And
you've got a lot going on.
Every single time that we've had somebody come on, we said this a couple of weeks ago, every single person has like a strong backing behind them.
Oh.
So
I think it's,
we want to know how that goes into that too.
Yeah.
So how do you balance it all? Or do you know how?
I think life is constantly figuring out the balance, right? I mean, think about any balance board you're on. It's almost never perfectly here. So it is this constant sway. I just try not to have it be too much of one or the other. I have found that as busy as I've always been busy, and it's just growing exponentially. And I'm grateful for that because I do a lot of things. I'm scaling up, I'm staffing up. And so these things are actually growing more and more, and it's wonderful. But I've realized recently, and Caitlin, my girlfriend, has reminded me of this, and I need to actually schedule in personal time. And that's something I'm just learning now. It's one thing to schedule in all your work, but if that's all you do, and if as you get busier with work, you have to actually schedule in personal time. Right. And people who don't use calendars and don't think this way right now, I know they're probably looking at me like, that's absurd. You're not living your life. And I'm like, no, it actually allows you to live your life. Because when I schedule in time to not do anything, I can actually put my phone away. Yeah, versus if I try and just manage it all and I'm at the dinner table, but I'm doing emails, like that's not being present.
You're not present.
That's way worse. So I am available the vast majority of the day for my teammates because I do a lot of different things and I want things to succeed. But I have to take time. I have to have a cutoff at night. Or if I have things to do that are important, have deadlines, I explain it, I communicate, I do a cutoff for the hour to have dinner or watch a show or do something together. And then I go back to work for the period of time I need to. But man, it just comes down to time management. It's really what it is. I was watching, who Rob Dyrdek is? Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's got
Fantasy Factory.
Fantasy Factory was one of his first shows.
Ridiculousness.
So Ridiculousness, he films like 300 episodes a year or something.
I didn't even know they were still doing that show.
I believe so. Or if they weren't, it might have been a slightly older podcast I was listening to. But he's like, I filmed 360 episodes, almost like one a day, but I'm sure they do like 4 a day over 3 months, right? And he's like, it takes 4% of my time. Think about the efficiency of that. But it's the way he can do things like that and the way that I can do so many different things really is time blocking and managing, like, this is when I dedicate to this, and it's like, it's only stressful when I'm not organized. Simple as that.
I fully agree. I love that. Because that is true. If you have your schedule and you're organized, you do feel a little relief.
And I guess part of it too is knowing when you simply have too much on your plate. So knowing when to say no. I say yes to a lot of things right now. But because I have so many things going, I owe it to those projects, owe it to those teammates, owe it to myself to make sure. So like when my calendar's full and there's no room for something, just to say yes to be nice doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah.
So learning to say no also, and still a tough lesson to learn.
That's definitely detrimental to the other things you're doing too. So.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you so much, and we don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, it's my pleasure. This is great.
Well, we can sit and talk real estate all day long.
So we really could.
It's good stuff.
There's times where we've sat on here for like an hour and a half just shooting the shit about real estate and just work-life balance, because I feel like that really is what it's all about. And it's great that just hearing your opinion on investing and your experiences and how you've gotten to where you are is so great. And obviously you're performing at a very high level, and that's not easy to do. So I definitely admire and love learning from people like you, and just really appreciate all of your time.
Yeah, thank you for giving your time. Yeah, it's been amazing. So I'm sure everybody out there watching knows who this gentleman is. Keep an eye on him. He's doing all these speaking now, so you can go see him in person doing, I don't know if you have some in Nashville coming up, or are you all over the place?
We're scheduling some opportunities from here to Poland to Israel, hopefully in the next few months.
We didn't talk about that.
So can we find that schedule on your...
Once it's locked in, yeah. Okay. Right now we're trying to...
Okay.
I'm going to start touring in June. I might be doing a movie in July, August.
Holy cow.
Going to be back on the road maybe for some more music after that. Maybe another movie after that. So I've got a real small window.
That's amazing.
In the next 3 months to figure this out, and we're working on it. There's a couple of opportunities already, but I don't want to. It'll be on my socials, just at James Maslow everywhere once everything's locked in.
Well, and you said earlier, which I meant to touch on, we can touch on it right before we wrap up. You said that you're doing some advocating for Judaism. Mm-hmm. Okay, so talk just a little bit about that and shout that out really quick, what you're doing.
So that's part of what has got me so interested in speaking in general. I've always loved motivating people, and I've been asked to do the occasional commencement speech from my old high school or a college campus. And I've really enjoyed seeing eyes light up in the audience. I've really enjoyed this direct path somehow I have because I've been doing this. You know, they grew up watching me on TV or listening to my music, and now when I speak from experience, they're listening. Versus a lot of people that I look up to that speak extremely successful in business, but you don't have that personal connection with them because they're not actors or musicians. Also, they're 30 years older, 20 years older than I am, which is not a bad thing. But I found that I have this unique voice and ability to motivate young adults especially. So I love doing it. And then I went to Israel shortly after October 7th. And just between being Jewish and experiencing what was happening on social media and then showing up in Israel with an open heart and open mind, asking questions, trying to understand what happened, I have found so much of the Jewish community especially, and people all over all sorts of backgrounds have reached out saying thank you for using your voice, asking for guidance. And it's a scary time to speak out about anything these days, unfortunately, and I think that's absolutely absurd, especially in this country. I mean, this country, freedom of speech is one of the main principles in which this country is founded on, and it's a beautiful thing that we have different people with different opinions. That's great. I encourage that. Yeah. But I also encourage critical thinking, and I encourage these opinions to be based on some sort of fact and history and understanding or personal experience, and not just on something you're regurgitating from somebody on TikTok, with all due respect, including if that person is me. Go and fact check, go and listen, go and formulate your own opinion, and then come to the table and disagree. Fuck yeah. But do it respectfully. Have a conversation. Like, we're smarter than this. We're better than this. And it drives me crazy because I'm not seeing that example on social media.
No.
So I am very much proud to be Jewish, very much proud to stand up for Judaism, for peace for everybody. That includes Israel's right to exist, but of course it also includes Palestinians' right to live and be free and to get away from a terrorist regime, which is Hamas, right? Anybody condoning Hamas and terrorism, I disagree with. That's absurd. But I could talk about it, and maybe we could learn something from each other. But the notion that just by being Jewish, just by showing up in Israel, that I hate Palestinians and I hate Muslims and I hate Islam, and I think it's just so absurd. None of that's true. None of it's even remotely true. I have Muslim friends. I have Islamic friends. There's so much misinformation, ignorance, and hate derivative often from misinformation and ignorance. So again, I know it's risky even saying these things to some people. It's not to me. It is very cut and dry. Let's have a conversation. Let's learn from each other. Let's come to the table and let's talk like adults. So I'll land the plane with that's why I am speaking more often, why I want to go to college campuses, why I want to stand up for people's ability to share their perspectives. Just let's do it in a more respectful manner. And I actually shot a documentary while I was out there, kind of unintentionally. I had 5 days off. I was on tour. I was like, I'm going to go see what's going on. It was about 43 days after the war had begun. It was very early on.
Very scary to be there in that time.
It was, and it was also beautiful, and it was also sad, and it was also uplifting. It was the most emotional week of my entire life, and I had such a great team with me that captured a lot of it on camera. And I just saw we're now on our 8th edit of it, and I kind of took a couple of edits off and just watched it yesterday, and it brought me right back there. It brought me to tears. So I'm excited about this. I don't know. We're trying to wrap it up in the next couple weeks. I don't know how exactly we're going to do distribution. We didn't do this with the intent of making money, but I do want to get it out there. I want to use it as a resource to show people my perspective, what happened on the ground, a lot of different voices in there, and more than anything, open up questions, open up a conversation. So whether that's being shown on college campuses or we go to a streamer with it or a combination of both, I am very excited about that.
I love the passion. I can see it in your face. And I just think you're right. Like, if they just heard the truth and stopped listening to the media, I think that's where all this is just getting so misread. So keep doing what you're doing.
I will.
Keep speaking. We'll be listening. I mean, I would love to see that documentary.
And stay tuned. So obviously, he has some very, very major things coming out. So
thanks for taking the time today. We so appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. And hey, maybe we'll be talking about doing some houses in Nashville soon, because that's definitely next on the list.
Let's do it. All right.
Hey, well, we are short-term queens for sure.
Anything you need.
I love it.
Anyway, don't forget to like, share, subscribe.
All the good things.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all.